Today I'm going to talk about creative thinking. Actually, the definition of creative thinking is a way of looking problems and also situation from a fresh perspective that suggests an unorthodox solution, which may look unsettling at first. Creative thinking can be stimulated both by unstructured process such as brainstorming and also by a structured process such as thinking. Actually, I have found some pictures, which is related to creative thinking. They are very interesting. They are already planned by shape round or a circle, shape that you can plan your creative thinking, and then you can plan, whatever you are going to do for your future. For example, here I only choose one, which is exactly about creative thinking. The central of this, circle is written critical and creative thinking, and then it divided into four parts. The first part is written inquiring, identifying, exploring, and organizing information and ideas. Second, generating ideas, possibilities, and actions. And third, analyzing, evaluating, reasoning, and also procedures. And the last is reflecting on thinking and processes. Okay, this is general activity, general capability, which is related to critical and also creative, thinking. You may have general, capability among other purposes. Literacy, ability, knowledge, everything related to your job and also to your future job, and then you can generate this kind of plan at first step. That is very important. Okay, most people associated creativity with arts, like writing a novel, or for example painting some pictures, or composing music. They're all creative efforts, they're all creative endeavors, but not all creative thinkers are artists, because many jobs require a lot of actually creative thinking despite having nothing to do with the arts. Okay, creativity actually simply means being able to come up with something new. If you can do that, not only can you enrich your own personal life, but also you will have an advantage in whatever field you enter. You just need to recognize, you just need to actually discern your own creativity. Okay, so far we have known creativity thinking means thinking about new things, thinking in new ways. It is thinking outside the box. Often creativity in this sense involves the ability to understand patterns that are not obvious. I have an examples here. The fictional detective Sherlock Holmes used lateral thinking in one famous story when he realized that a dog not barking was an important, clue in a murder case. Okay, how we can improve, this ability? Actually, some people are naturally more creative than others, but creative thinking can be strengthened with practice. You can practice, creative thinking by solving riddles, by solving puzzle, and also by your, by your guess, by your assumption, and also you may have go for playing. I mean, use play anything, unstructured, and okay, something like this that I just brought examples. Creative people can actually devise new ways to carry out, to do tasks, to solve problems, to meet challenges as well. They bring a fresh and also something, as I mentioned earlier, unorthodox. I mean, something which is not usual among people, something is very different from what is usual or what is accepted by most people. So they bring these new things to their work and can help their departments, their organizations to move in more productive directions. Yeah. There's something here which is very interesting. Nowadays, some job descriptions simply state that creative thinking is required for the position. In that case, you should come to your interview prepared with specific examples of how you are able to demonstrate your creativity. And also, besides this, they want somebody to to be creative. At the end, actually, I have brought some examples which is related to skills in, creative thinking skills in the workplace. Creative thinking skills in the workplace is set from A to F and G to Z, but I have chosen, some of them which are as follows. For example, arranging a retail display to have maximum impact, and brainstorming at a staff meeting to set a strategy for the next year, and also creative and exam to test student knowledge or to test your colleagues or your staff. Another one is developing a lesson plan to captivate students, and then generating unusual interview questions, and also suggesting new way to communication. Thank you.
Right, thank you so much for this creative presentation.
You're welcome.
All right, so you're getting better and better in each session. This is wonderful. Okay, my points, you had some mispronunciations, but who doesn't? Everybody has mispronunciations. Again, actually, you said you have this problem, words starting with S. Actually, you should not pronounce E at the very beginning. For example, you said stimulate.
Stimulate, okay.
And the other example is brainstorm. You said brainstorm. It's brainstorm. Even actually S here is not at the very beginning of that, but I don't know why you said brainstorm. It's S is not at the very beginning of this word. But anyway, so this problem is so actually intense. You need to spend much more time on that.
Okay, sure.
Mm-hmm. And let me see. You said already. It's already. Second syllable. And you said it divided it into. Divide here should be used in a passive voice. It is divided into.
It is divided.
And you mispronounced this word by putting the stress on the second syllable. You said generate. It's generate. Generate, first syllable. And yeah, you said something else. It is analyze, first syllable.
Yeah. Analyze. Yeah. Analyze.
Capability. Capability. It's not capability. It's capability.
Okay.
You said most people associated with. Yeah. You know, actually associate something with something else. And you don't need to put it in a past tense and even actually passive voice. People associate something with something else. Or if you want to put it in a passive voice, you should say that this thing is associated by some people, for example, with something else. The structure is the same as I told you.
Can you repeat it again, please?
In an active voice, you should say people associate something to something else or with something else. With is better. So people associate something with something else. For example, people associate creativity with artistic works. But if you want to put it in a passive voice, you should use artistic work is associated with creativity by some people. Don't pay attention to the meaning, but it's just an example.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. And you said artist, it's artist. And also you said enter into the field, but do you remember I told you that that is enter. And in one part of your presentation you said creativity thinking, but you should say creative thinking. We don't have creativity thinking.
Yes.
And you said involve, it is purely British, and you follow the American pronunciation, so you should say involve.
Actually, doctor, I think American no pronunciation is easier than English pronunciation.
So you should say involve. But you said involve in your presentation. Yeah.
Oh, involve. Okay.
Yeah. Involve. You said something else, but the correct pronunciation is riddle. You said by solving some riddles, for example. Riddles. Okay. And demonstrate, the first syllable as a verb. Demonstrate. And specific. I think you said a specific or something like this, but it was not a specific. And you said at the end, but you should say in the end. Because at the end of what? At the end of what? At the end of something, we say generally. For example, at the end of the paragraph. Pay attention and go to the end of that. Okay, but in the end means finally, eventually, at last. These are different. At the end versus in the end.
At the end of lecture.
Yeah, at the end of the lecture, exactly. At the end of the lecture. But you cannot say at the end by itself, all alone.
Oh. Why?
I told you, we said because it refers to a location. At the end of what? But here you are not focusing on the location of your presentation. You are focusing that you want to come to a conclusion.
Okay.
So you should say in the end. In the end means finally.
Yeah.
And again, you said develop. In one part of the presentation, I want you to become perfect, flawless, without any mistake. That's why actually I just paid special attention to the details.
Yeah,
Maybe
thank
other
you.
teachers would not care about that. Want to know if you know the difference between critical thinking and creative thinking. It's not just pure copying or imitation or blind imitation.
Yeah, exactly. It's not blind imitation. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, from that point of view, yes, it's relevant. As a matter of fact, when in order to distinguish between critical and creative thinking, you should focus on this point that when it comes to creativity, you try to synthesize, means put together in order to form something new. So it is synthetic, or actually, let's say, holistic. It means there are some items you just put them together in order to make something new. Okay, so it is holistic or synthetic. But conversely, and also usually creativity has something to do with the right hemisphere, which is visually oriented. Because actually both of these types of thinking are related to information processing. When we are talking about critical thinking, then you have that whole, but you try to just compartmentalize that. It means you divide it into its parts. So it is analytic as opposed to synthetic. You analyze, it means you divide the whole into its parts and try to just consider them or review them one by one logically, so your logic comes into view. So, and because of that, because it has something to do with logicality, it refers to the left hemisphere of the brain generally. Yeah, and it's mathematical, and it is definitely mathematical. Yeah. So this is the basic difference between creativity and criticality. And yeah.
Okay.
And I think both of them are equally important.